I generally don't recommend for people to focus on their weaknesses. Because when you focus on growing and improving your strengths, then you're able to maximize your God-given abilities. There's one exception to this rule. And if you don't focus on these particular weaknesses, it's possible that they could derail your influence with others. So stay tuned. I want to share with you more. Hey there, I'm Ryan Franklin, and I would love for you to join me every week as we explore leadership topics that'll help you get the clarity needed to move your organization forward. Just hit the subscribe button and the bell to get notified as soon as I post a new session. And before we get started, I do want to mention that I have a great product called the Christian Leader Blueprint. It's a solid model for leadership development. If you've been looking for something that can help you or your team members develop in leadership, look no further than the Christian Leader Blueprint. And I want to give it away to you as my gift. Just go to christianleadermadesimple.com and you can download the short guide for free today. And so without any further delay, let's get to our session. If we always focus on our weaknesses instead of our strengths, we'll greatly limit what we're capable of in the future. I would imagine you've probably heard that said before. And yes, that's an important general rule to follow. But if we don't give attention to certain aspects of our weaknesses, there's a great possibility that those weaknesses will undermine our influence with others. Let me give you an example. I personally have a natural weakness in the area of compassion. Even though I'm a pastor and I do lots of counseling and coaching, I struggle to be that warm and caring and sensitive kind of a leader that if I'm not very intentional, especially if I'm tired or I'm overly stressed. And so if I don't give significant effort to raise this weakness in my life, at least a little bit, to get the ox out of the ditch, so to speak, there's a pretty good chance that I may say something that's maybe harsh to someone. I may hurt someone's feelings. I'll probably have trouble empathizing with them. And there's no doubt that this could negatively impact my influence with the people that I lead and serve. And this low compassion is one of those weaknesses that can literally derail my leadership if I were to let it. And so I've got to work hard to show a Christ-generated compassion when I'm meeting and I'm interacting with people. And so to help me grow in this area, I usually start every day with prayer and devotion. That's number one. And I also try to make sure that I have the energy to push against my grain and show significant compassion when it's needed. And so that's just one personal example of a weakness. There's actually quite a few of them that can derail your leadership if they're too extreme. And though there's no way of naming all of these things here in this small amount of time, let me just give you a few examples today. These are 10 things that I feel are most important to look at. And I already mentioned number one, that's lacking compassion. We've already discussed how this weakness can affect successful leadership. Having some form of compassion is very important if you're going to lead effectively. But number two, having low emotional intelligence. Now, this is a big one because the less you're aware of yourself and the less you can regulate how you're interacting with others, the less influence you're going to have with the people you lead. And I can't stress to you how important this is. In this day and age, emotional intelligence is not optional if you want to lead well and you want to grow an organization. And this weakness is not easy to overcome either. It just takes personal growth and time to increase your emotional intelligence. And of course, good counselors and executive coaches can also help you grow in this area in a much quicker way than trying to do it on your own. And the third weakness is having no vision or direction. Not everyone is gifted in creating vision, but if you're not, it's so important to an organization, that you recruit someone on your team that can help in this area. There's likely someone around you that can help you brainstorm vision and direction. And I'll say this, it's a false idea that all of the vision has to be created by the leader himself or herself. That's just not the case. So I encourage you, gather people around you that can help you create it. And then you work hard to communicate that vision and to stand behind that vision. So the fourth weakness to give attention to is settling for mediocrity. You don't have to be perfect in everything you do. Perfectionism is actually a killer of progress. But if the product or the service that your organization produces for people is not excellent, I challenge you, push yourself to raise your level of expectation, because people want to follow leaders that love excellence. So that's 4 weaknesses so far. We have 6 more to go. And you may be getting the idea by now of how you overcome these weaknesses. It's mostly just pushing against your grain to get yourself out of the ditch, to get the ox out of the ditch, so to speak, in these areas, and using the people around you that are gifted in those areas that you're not. That's very important. It's not that we have to be perfect in these things that we're weak in. That's not our goal. We just want to make sure that they aren't so weak that they harm our influence with the people that we lead. So for the rest of these 6 weaknesses that will potentially derail your leadership, I'm just going to quickly run through them. Number 5 is not regularly developing yourself and others. It's a very important one. And number 6, neglecting delegating to people's strengths. Number 7, distrusting people that have proven to be trustworthy will derail your leadership. Number 8, remaining unsociable at important times, even if you're an introvert. Then number 9, being too impulsive and regularly breaking the rules. And then finally, and the one that I think is probably the most important, is number 10, refusing to create a culture of acceptance on your team. Refusing to create a culture of acceptance on your team. These are 10 of the greatest weaknesses that will literally derail your influence if you don't give attention to getting these things out of the ditch. And I know I ran through these quickly, especially those last 6. So I encourage you, go back and review these 10 weaknesses and do a little self-evaluation. And so to wrap up this session, I want you to reflect on these 2 questions. Number 1, which one of these weaknesses do you struggle with the most? Then number 2, what's one thing you can do this week to help you improve as you work to develop your influence and overcome that one weakness? Don't try to do too much. Just start with one thing. And let me stress this. It's so important to not make excuses with these weaknesses. Push against your grain. Use other people in your life to help you improve those things, and work on developing yourself in these particular areas. And this will help you avoid derailing or damaging your influence with the people you lead. Thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you.